Captain Sullenberger has nearly 20,000 hours logged. He began his airline career with PSA Airlines in 1980. He also served in the United States Air Force, attaining the rank of captain, and has been a flight instructor, accident investigator, and National Technical Committee member during his career. Jeff Skiles began his career with U.S. Airways in 1986. The Oregon-Wisconsin resident is also a regular AirVenture attendee, as he began attending the EAA flying with his parents, who were also pilots, when it was in Rockford, Illinois in the 1960s. And I guess the best thing we can say at this point about the two of them is they have been preceded in this form by the FAA administrator and Burt Rutan, and they got a bigger crowd than both of them. So the rest of the program belongs to Captain Sully Sullenberger and Jeff Skiles.
Uh-oh, wrong side.
They should have given you one. Yeah, I'm in the left seat, he's in the right seat. But you know, he used to be a captain at U.S. Airways. And one of the things that I have done for a while, can you hear me okay back there? One of the things I've done for a while, I'm going to make a welcome aboard announcement at my airline, where we were less than half the size that we once were. And everybody I fly with either was a captain or could have been a captain. I'll announce that they're captain, just to acknowledge that he has 20,000 hours of flying time just like I do, and that he's been a captain before, and he deserves the respect that he's already earned a couple of times over.
Do you remember what my response was when you asked me that?
No, but I think I'm about to be reminded.
I said, no, please, no names. That just gives them something for their letters to the company.
But this reminds me of when we, 5 days after the January 15th emergency landing, we were at the inauguration, and the wild ride had already begun. And we didn't know the full extent of it yet. We still don't. But we got to the inauguration, a bitterly cold but beautiful day in Washington. We were up on the platform waiting for the real VIPs to arrive. And we got down there, all 5 of us, and they had taped on the seats who was supposed to be where. And you remember, Jeff, what the tape instructions said?
Well, you know, we were kind of searching around. We knew kind of the general area because we had a guide, but we didn't know where the seats were, so we're all looking around for our names on the seats. And here I find one that's right up on the corner, the corner spot, the ideal place. Governors are sitting behind us, and it says Captain Chesley Sullenberger on the seat, little car. So I said, hey Sully, I found your seat. And then I looked next to it and I said, hey Sully, I found my seat. It said crew.
And so that's the battle I've been fighting unsuccessfully since January 15th, is to remind everyone, particularly the media, that this is about more than one person. It was about a crew, and had any part of that crew been different, we would not have had the same outcome. So this gentleman sitting right here next to me was in that crucible with me when we were fighting for our lives and for the lives of our passengers and crew. And he has my eternal gratitude for his skill and his courage on January 15th. And he has my appreciation for his conduct in the inevitable aftermath.
Well, thank you very much. And you know, I just like to say that, you know, I actually flew with Sully one trip. I didn't even know who he was until I showed up for that 4-day trip. But just in the course of flying with him, I guess, you know, I've always said that in flying, you have the 5% that probably shouldn't be flying, and you have the 5% that, you know, are just, you know, natural-born pilots, and the rest of us, including me, kind of muck around somewhere in between. But Sully's not even the 5%. Sully is the tip of the arrow in the aviation business. I cannot say enough about this man, what he has accomplished, what he means to me. And I'm going to be very proud to fly as his first officer on his first trip when he comes back to the line in September. And I'll tell you right now, I would be very proud to fly with you on your last trip before you retire as well. I got another story about being overlooked, though. Sully hasn't heard this. Sully hasn't heard this one because it just happened on the last trip I was on that I got off of last week. I'm in Ontario, California, and we stay on they give us all kinds of different rooms at the hotels. We're coming down the hotel, coming down the elevator. I get on the elevator. The captain I'm flying with is standing there, so we're standing, the two of us at the back of the elevator. Goes down another floor, stops. Another gentleman comes on board, he's standing between us. And I'm here, captain's over here. And he looks at the captain and says, "Are you Sully?" And he said, "No, Sully's about 6 inches taller." He says, we all are just old and gray haired at US Airways. But then he says, "But this is Jeff Skiles. He was the first officer on that US Airways Flight 1549. So the guy looks at me and says, "You were the first officer?" And I said, "Yeah." "Boy, you sure look like Sully."
Okay, so tell them the story about the inaugural ball. That's one of my favorites.
Well, this was just the start of where I realized that I really wasn't much in this area. After we went to the inauguration, which was nothing but cold, let me tell you, we just wanted it to be over. And then when that poet came out,
Don't get me started.
I think I even said to Sully, "Isn't poetry supposed to rhyme?" But later on, when I was in inaugural balls, we got to meet President Michelle Obama, and afterwards, we're out watching the show, and I think Sting and Stevie Wonder were on stage there, and I happened to be standing next to Sully, which is something I've now learned not to do because you get run over by people if you happen to stand right next to Sully. But it's actually, as I was just, I'll tell that story in a minute. But anyways, so this young girl, she's right ahead of us. She happens to turn around and she looks at Sully and she says, "Are you Sully?" And he says, "Yes." I said, and she said, "What did she say?"
Well, first of all, there were two of them. They're probably about 40 years younger than I am, and they're both particularly good looking, and they seemed very excited about running into us. And so I was trying to be very inclusive, and I said, "Yes, I'm Sully." And I said, "And this is my first officer, Jeff Skiles, who was with me that day."
Oh, and she says, what she tells Sully, "Can I get my picture taken with you?" And he says, "Yeah." And then he introduces me, this is, Jeff Skiles, he was with me in the airplane in the Hudson. She says, "You were in the airplane with Sully?" Pumped up, I said, "Well, yeah." And she says, "Here, can you take my picture with Sully?"
And that's how it started. Poor guy has been the co-pilot for 6.5 months now. There's Captain Sullenberger and the co-pilot. First of all, it's first officer, not co-pilot. And Yeah, his name is Jeff Skiles. You got that? Jeff Skiles.